If you do not understand the value of rest, every other aspect of your life is going to go haywire. You will not be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve, and you will get in your own way over and over again. Well, welcome to another episode of What to Say and How to Say It. And today we're going to be talking about how rest is actually not a sin. I know some of you are like, well, God told us to rest, right? No, it's actually something you need to do if you're going to be effective at all God has called you to do. And it seems like, ooh, super boring topic, but I got news for you. If you do not understand the value of rest, every other aspect of your life is going to go haywire. You will not be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve, and you will get in your own way over and over again. So today we're with our favorite counselor, Kyle Hargrove. He is a wizard when it comes to helping other people navigate to healthy living, mentally, emotionally, and physically in this space for sure. We're going to be taking some time to talk about not just rest, but restoring ourselves and what does it mean to take good care of yourself, the whole self-care trend that some people think is selfish. Well, we're here today to tell you self-care is not selfish. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the most giving things that you can do. So Kyle, what are your thoughts on this thing?
My thoughts are you called me a wizard without letting me know. I could have worn my wizard hat.
You probably have one, don't you?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I also have chicken with flapping wings and, Santa hats and things like that. But but then you said I'm a wizard at helping people recognize these things. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be totally transparent right here. I'm a lot better at helping other people recognize it than I am about recognizing it in my own life. Let me say that again. I'm a lot better about helping other people recognize it than I am about recognizing it in my own life. And I've come as I'm aging. I recently turned 59. I more recently turned 60. But anyhow, as my mind and my body and everything about me gets older, I realize that I've already reached the apex. If there was an apex, I've already reached that spot. I couldn't go back and point it out or say when it was or what it was, but physically, I've already reached that. And so as time passes on, when I start seeing things and feeling things and hearing messages from my body, I got to start giving them a little more attention. Mm-hmm. And part of that is knowing when to stop everything and rest. Even within that, part of it is knowing when I need to sit down and not be like right now, it's May in Texas and it's already over 100 degrees. I can't go out and work in the yard or do things in 100-degree heat as long or as intensely as I used to. Mm-hmm. I have to know when to come in and sit down. Now, sometimes that means sitting down and reading a book or sitting down and watching a show or whatever, or sitting down and working a puzzle. Sometimes it means laying down.
I wish I didn't understand this. Like for real. Yeah, we've driven our daughter. Unfortunately. Yeah. We've driven our daughter to college and back a couple of times. She's 6 hours from here in Chicago. And we just over the weekend went to Chicago and got her. And I somehow lost my mind. I thought, oh, it's 6 hours one way, 6 hours back. We can do this. She's all packed up, ready to go. We got this. We got this. So about 1 a.m, Saturday morning, as I'm driving the last stint back, I'm going, oh, this is a long drive. This is a lot of driving. And it took me 3 days to recover from that. And then I remembered why I said 3 times ago, or whenever it was, when we first did that and I tried that, then I said, I'd never do this again. And so I was wise for like 3 trips. And then I lost my ever-loving mind. And 3 days later, I still hurt everywhere. Like, what? You are not 20, girl. But even if I was,
that's right.
Should I stay up for 3 days straight? Probably not, because you go crazy when you don't get sleep. There's so many things that we need to do to take care of ourselves.
Isn't that the challenge for all of us? Because, we look down and look in the mirror in the morning and say, oh, there must be some mistake, because we're growing and we're deteriorating. We are physically, and we do what we can to maintain as best we can. But the reality of it is we've already at some age been at our apex. But behind our face, we operate like we're something else. Like me, I think it's, 13. So, things like junior high, 7th grade boys laugh at, I still think they're funny. And when I'm not thinking about it, I think I'll go from the perspective that I'm much younger. Mm-hmm. Body is. Mm-hmm. My brain, even though it sometimes feels old too, but my brain, just on a good day, it operates from this perspective that is much younger than I am. And sometimes I find myself in a bind because of it.
Well, and that is a huge, huge thing. And inside my head, I'm 27. I not that I'm older or better than you. It's just, that's what I feel. I felt my best in my late 20s before I got pregnant, and then my body betrayed me ever since. There's all these things that come when you crank out kids that happen to you that you don't plan on. And I loved my late 20s. I've actually loved every age I've ever been, but the wisdom, like if I could have the energy level, like you said, you have to plan differently. One of the things I'm doing now is I refuse to look at email until after 2:00 and sometimes after 4:00, because I know, and this is a wisdom thing that I learned about 15, 20 years ago. If I go look at that first, my whole day's shot. I'm not going to have the self-control to still be in charge of my time. I'm going to let other people push me around all day. Oh, yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to drink water. Like, I wander around everywhere I go. I got one of these things with me. Right. Like, and that's something I think the millennials and the 20 somethings get that a lot of us older people don't, is that your brain doesn't work right unless you are hydrated. Like, you're way more emotional. I didn't know that till like 15, 20 years ago. And I've just been doing the water thing for like the last 5, 7 years because I have 20 somethings that taught me that that's a thing. So there's a number of ways that we need to take care of ourselves, and rest is one of them for sure. What are some things that you see in your practice, people need to say yes or no to themselves more about?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just overscheduling. And it's not something that's new, but it's something that has ramped up to an unsustainable pace, and I talk with people every day. A lot of people, they have younger kids and they're involved in so many things. And I'm not suggesting that we go back to the good old days, but when I was a kid, if we played a sport, it was one at a time. Mm-hmm. If we, maybe we were playing baseball and we could also be in scouts and we could also be involved in church, but our parents at a point said, that's enough.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have enough of us now saying that's enough. And I'm not talking about just with our kids. I'm talking about with our own selves and our schedules. And we try to pack more and more into less and less time. And like I said, it's not physically sustainable. We wear ourselves out and we fatigue ourselves. And then, our most recent podcast was about worry and anxiety. Mm-hmm. That wears us out. When you start stacking all these things up on top of each other, it doesn't matter how much time we take or give or whatever it is, sooner or later, the house of cards is going to come tumbling down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can't handle all of that stress and the multiple priorities. And I mean, your brain can only make so many decisions in a day. And the more consumed we are with the details and who needs this and that and the other, and more parents are not helping their kids step up to being responsible. Like, they're still making lunch and packing it for their 13-year-old. It's like, what? No. Like, yeah, my kids, not that I'm so awesome, but I read a book and it said a 5-year-old could make its own lunch. And so I taught my children how to make their lunches. And they did that, and they remembered to take them with. And I mean, kids are amazing. They'll live up to whatever you ask them to. But, I deal with so many women, they're just exhausted. And it's because they're living the lives their children are meant to live. doing for
Exactly.
instead of doing with and coaching. Eesh. And then they wonder why they're living in their basement when they're 25, unemployed and all that
Yep.
other stuff. Our job is to equip them and help them go out and conquer the world, go fall on your face as many times as you can while you're safely under our wing, but go do. Don't let me do it for you, no matter what they cry about. They want you to, but that's not helping them.
Right. And there are a lot of negative things that come from that. Entitlement is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we even plan on talking about that today, but that's, one of the things that comes from overdoing and being enmeshed and overstepping boundaries that need to have been drawn, and allowing kids to take risks that are reasonable risks, allowing kids to fail and acknowledge failure and say, I failed. I did not succeed. I don't deserve a trophy.
Oh my words.
And that's probably another podcast for another time.
No, can we just for a second, because tipped up. So third grade basketball season, right? They lost every single game, every one of them, like something to 0. Okay. It was a terrible season. And the coach shows up at our door with a trophy. And I said, what is this? And he said, well,
we didn't think we were going to a party.
I know, right? Well, we didn't go to the party. We were out of town, thankfully. But he said, well, the school district makes me hand these out. And I said, yeah, thank you so much for driving all the way over here and doing this. And you were a great coach, and the kids loved you, and they stunk. And it's not your fault. I mean, I don't know how you heard cats. They're 3 third graders, right? They don't, just between you and me, this is going in my garbage unless you have someone else you want to give it to, because I don't want to teach my kid that showing up equals a trophy. They lost. It's good to lose sometimes, so you can learn from that. And he's like, I don't disagree with you, lady. I'm just doing my job. I was like, well, you have a good rest of your day. He said, this is painful for me. I don't want to give any of these up, but I have to. And I was cool. Failure, the big thing that separates people that are successful from people that are not, is, do they stick with it when they fail? They've failed more times than unsuccessful people. They've stuck with it. So that's the key. That's the lesson. And the only way to learn how to succeed is to be good at failing, which means you got to be okay with yourself and do it often and get back up and do it again. That's how that works. So excuse me for the momentary soapbox. I'll get off. Anyway. Yes, I did let my kids fail.
Yeah. Well, understand, kids want to climb trees. It's kind of in their nature. They want to do it. And so as a parent, I've got to decide, are their motor skills developed enough to climb that tree and do it safely and, come back down? And okay, they probably are. All right, well, I'm going to let you climb the tree. I have to know somewhere back here that there's the possibility that he's going to fall out. And if that happens, there's likely to be a broken arm or a twisted ankle or a cut on the head or whatever. I have to know that's a possibility. And it's also a part of growing up, is trying something and it not going so well. But there's also something in developing a child's self-esteem and their confidence that they can do things and that they can try something and maybe they didn't quite make it, but if they know what they did wrong or they know what they need to do, then they go back and try it again and they succeed about it. And how awesome is that? Yeah. When you not only didn't succeed the first time, but you went back and you worked on it, you tried to get better, and then you succeeded. I would rather see that than somebody that's really good at something the first time they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's more value in that in terms of building up the person that I am on the inside and how I feel about myself. I saw the value of hard work and of dedication and maybe even a little bit of sacrifice. And we're just not seeing a lot of that anymore.
Yeah, and we're hiring all the best coaches, and we're spending all the money on all the, best tutoring and all those things. Not that, we shouldn't do that when our kids are struggling, but to do it for everything all the time, always. And, to have your kid have this mentality that they need to be the best, I don't, it's so much pressure and stress to put on somebody. And we just talked about that in one of our other episodes about 5 signs that you might be a high functioning nervaholic. If you haven't heard that one, you might want to go back and listen to it, because it's definitely a thing. The other piece of it is they learn that it's not safe to fail. And so they spend a lot of energy walking on eggshells around people so that they don't get judged, and then they don't try as hard. And if you feel like you're dealing with that, right, you need to go to our website, greaterimpact.org, and pick up our free ebook, How to Stop Walking on Eggshells, because we gotta empower our kids to go live the lives that God has created for them within them, right? That has to be birthed somehow. And it doesn't get birthed if we're so safe and we're so hesitant.
That's right. Well, to follow on in our original conversation, there's some understandings about what we are as, human beings, and a human body, and what it's capable of, and what we should expect from ourselves, and when we should know to probably, tap the brakes a little bit. I learned a saying probably 35 years ago that the body whispers before it shouts. And I'm not talking about just the body. I'm not just talking about my feet hurting or my back hurting or feeling a little bit tired. I'm talking about how well our brains perform when we're experiencing fatigue and exhaustion. And we're just, the routine of things sometimes is enough and more than enough. And when we continue to add things to it and just add and add and add, we don't contemplate the possible repercussions of that and the consequences of it. But I can't tell you how many stories I've read and just testimonies I've heard from people who had, terrible medical things happen to them. And they say, I should have known, there were signs. I just didn't stop. I didn't listen. And so it's not just a matter of what happens physically, but what happens to the rest of our lives. Sometimes if we don't watch what's going on around us and pay attention to the messages that we get from so many different places, we sometimes can run ourselves into brick walls and say, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I had a client who lost his job recently. And he said, Kyle, they put me on a 60-day performance plan and I ignored it. I thought it was no big deal. I thought that there was, people say all kinds of good things about my work, and they say I don't get bad reviews and things like that. But the fact that they put him on a performance plan should have said something to him right there. Yeah. That was a sign.
Yeah.
Didn't listen to it. He lost his job, lost the ability to care for his family. And now his stress is through the roof, and his ability to do some things he needs to do to take care of himself is limited because he doesn't have it.
Yeah, no, that's legit. We get so busy, we don't pay attention to things that we would see if we weren't so busy, if we weren't, so our minds weren't so fluttered and cluttered with all of the stuff that we're worrying about. That's definitely a thing. And we lose the ability to manage our emotions, and then we damage the people around us and our relationships. That's super not helpful also. So when we're not emotionally rested or intellectually rested or physically rested, that can come out sideways too. Think about how you feel when you're sick, right? I'm a grumpy cat when I'm sick. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody. I guess I'm kind of like this before coffee in the morning too. But that's okay. So just there's that. But but the thing is that our bodies affect so much else, our relationships and everything else. And we have to take care of that. I have a connective tissue disorder that I've dealt with for 25 years, and I only get so many spoons, if you will, a day. If you will consider a spoon a level of energy. So one of my spoons might be walking the dogs. Another spoon might be I'm going to go do aerobics for a half hour. Another spoon might be, okay, I've got 28 places to go run and do and errands and all those things. If I run out of spoons and it's 5 o'clock, I can't make dinner. I can't weed my garden. I can't do, so I have to make intentional, and I've had to do this for a while. I have to make choices based on physical limitation. And that happened to me when I was still considered, quote, young, right? I'm not so young anymore, but everybody has some sort of limitation, and all of us have limitations emotionally. You and I were talking earlier, it's really important for people that care for others to care for themselves, because if they don't, there's nothing left to give. Well, who isn't doing that? It's not like you and I are special in that regard. It's everybody cares for other people. So how do we give them our best self? I think it's by taking care of us too.
Yeah. And that, that's something that has to come into play in counseling and therapy on almost a daily basis. You have the scale of things that you work with when you're in the clients that you coach. When they go through certain things, you just say, time out, tap the brake, stop right here. We're going to go back to the basics. What are you putting in your body? How much rest are you getting? Are you getting activity? Because if those things aren't being done, if those needs aren't being met, the rest of it's really kind of, I'm not going to call it irrelevant, but I am going to say it, it's second level importance. And we're not going to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. No, you're spot on with that. So you gotta make sure those basics are covered, because if they're not, we're not able to do the higher level things. You can't fix a relationship if you're getting 5 hours of sleep a night and you're eating garbage, and you're not exercising, or that's a thing. Nobody likes to hear that. And the older we get, the less we like to hear that. But if we don't listen, at some point, our body yanks a knot in our tail and tells us, hey, hello, how about some sickness? How about some injury? Let me help you slow down, since you ain't listening to wisdom anywhere, And I hate that, but it's true. And the older you get, nobody likes to hear this, man. Here, I'm this spoiler alert. The older you get, the more you got to listen, or the less awesome it is. Just saying. That's all I'm going to say about that. Figure yourselves out later. Just saying. Yeah. So
one of the things that my parents taught me was about the tithe. And so when my parents taught me, they said, you don't do all the things that you have to do, make a payment or put money into savings or buy stuff that you want, and then you tithe with what's left over. You tithe with the bulk of it up front.
Yep.
And you put that aside, and then you do the other things you want to do and that you're obligated to do. Well, I think we've got to start doing the same thing with our rest and relaxation, and saying, when I sit down and look at my calendar, when I sit down and look at what this week looks like, I got to build that time in first. I got to just presume this week's going to wear my tail out. So at what point am I going to restore and let my body and my mind take a break?
Yeah.
I will be so much better in everything I do every week if I give myself some blocks of time throughout that week, or a day on the weekend or something like that, in order to not have to think so hard, in order to not have to go so fast and I can get off my feet, literally.
No, that's super important. I use a calendar feature, which I'm sure you've got also, that something similar, where I make block time appointments with myself and the Lord. And that forces the margin, because if I don't put it in my calendar, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't happen. It's not real unless it's in my calendar. No matter how important it is to me, it's not real. It's probably not good on my part to not have, or to have these weird realities, but it's true. And having that then helps me. And I always pad that a wee bit. And the problem with saying this in a podcast is clients would be like, well, you say you have padding. Do you have padding today? And well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. So I'm not setting myself up here for anything. But the reality is that I need that time to be my best for the people that I serve. And if I don't have it first from the Lord, and if I don't have it physically, if I don't work out, and this is the hardest thing, I think, for me, is saying no to myself and saying yes to myself. So I'm going to say yes to myself about exercise, and no to the cake that I know right now. Like right now, I know there's cake on top of my refrigerator, and I put it up there because it's out of
It's
sight.
been good talking to you today. Yeah, I have to go now.
Thanks. Thanks,
Ooh,
Kyle. Yeah, well, I put
yeah.
it up there because if I see it on the counter, I'm going to have a piece of it. But if I put it up there, it's not real. It's kind of like being in my calendar. Um, but I have a hard time saying no to myself in some spaces. Food is one of them. So that's a thing. Andy Stanley, I got the pleasure of hearing him speak in 2018. And one of the things that he said is that we are the most difficult people to lead, leading ourselves. Man, if that ain't true. Boundaries with ourselves,
Well, you're
the worst. So,
that is absolutely spot on.
well, the good news is that we have some other episodes around how do you lead yourself, not just with yourself, but in your relationships. So if you got if any of this relates to you today, I hope you'll check out some of our other episodes on what to say and how to say it, and find yourself being motivated to bring your best self to your relationships, for yourself, for them, and for the Lord.